All right, so we not only have a dictator of tyranny in America, but now with this new kind of power grab, we've got a possible dictator of the world. In fact, you see how much spin and craziness has been put on uh, Vladimir Putin becoming president of Russia pretty overwhelmingly, and one of the most fair elections with video cameras on every polling site that can be watched by any viewer at any time on the internet. I mean, we've got Russia and China right now going completely against what America wants to do with the world and how they see fit to go into any country at any time under whatever reasons they want to put out. Like, there's a new crazy viral video going around for this guy in Uganda who is, apparently committing crimes of civility by grabbing young kids to be involved in military actions and enslaving, trafficking women and stuff like that. And it's mainly because this is what the establishment wants to go viral so that they can start gaining support to maybe in the future go into Uganda so that they now recently found out that Uganda has oil there. Hey, why don't we go and try to control that one? That one almost seems a little bit easier than Iran, being that, Iran has completely been contained and has so many sanctions on it that we're completely destroying that country economically, which only really ultimately harms the citizens. So, what we're doing is we're actually being terrorists to the country of Iran and their citizens by not allowing them to be able to go about their daily purchases and getting groceries and things like that. Now they have to pay a lot higher costs, and the whole world is going on this kind of a trend with every economics debt and slavery from bailouts and from the U.S. supplying money around the world with our U.S. currency. But there's confidence being lost in that as we speak because countries are stopping in in doing these transactions with oil with the U.S. dollar and going to gold and trading currency to currency between countries because confidence is being lost in the dollar. They see this has obviously been a monopoly that America has been pulling on the world to use dollars in oil transfers in transactions for oil. So I mean, we completely have a dictator on our hands here trying to control everything. And you know what? Whether you want to put the power on him and say he's a dictator, which I just like to say that because that is his role right now, Obama, it's the people behind him also that are completely to blame for all of these things. A lot of people uh, say Obama's just a puppet for the ultimate schemes of the bankers that are at the very top in the private owners of the Federal Reserve, if you will, and around the world, the different central banks. But I mean, you look at Obama. I mean, he's going through all the necessary routes as much as possible through his administration to wreak havoc on America and around the world. So it's also Obama. I mean, even if he is a puppet, he's the one rolling out these ideas. He's the one considering how do we present this to America in a way that it seems like it might be good for the people. And what's funny is the more they get involved in this, the less real that concern seems. Obama's a smooth talking liar, but if you see any of his press videos recently that he just did this week, where he's being asked questions by the press, it seems very staged. He's calling all the reporters by their names because it's like he knows probably the question they're going to ask. He knows them. He knows that they're probably already on his side and they want to help his agenda along. I mean, this is complete propaganda. This is Nazism. This is like everybody coming in and working together for the same agenda. And you know what? It's being pushed on the American people in one ear, out the other ear. And how many times does that have to happen before you start believing that these are the ways that we are dealing with things, and this is all just a spin on everything, you know? I mean, you look at, just as an example that's kind of funny, you look at Bill O'Reilly being the no spin zone. Well, who spends things more so in the no spin zone than anybody but Bill O'Reilly himself? All right, well, that's what's happening in all of our politics right now. We have an agenda going on between both the Republicans and Democrats. There's like no difference now, especially now that Obama has completely gone through almost one term, doing exactly the same thing as Bush, except for expanding on everything Bush did. This is got to stop. We have to stand up and have some kind of people's mandate that reaffirms the Constitution as being the law of the land, which it has always been. But we are having a redefinition of our law of the land in a way that uh, people are just asleep to it and don't care about it. And it seems like he's got our best interest. He's coming out and working with people. He's coming out and making departments. Well, let me just tell you this: Obama's come up with a department for the Consumer Protection Agency. Well, all that is just to track every transaction that you and I and every business does so that they know the best ways to manipulate the currency in order to keep our ultimate dollar bubble afloat, if you will. Keep it from popping. And if you ask me, this is the worst thing that we could possibly do because what they're trying to do is keep the inevitable from happening. The dollar collapse, the confidence collapsing, the reserve currency. And obviously, the consequences of letting any of these things happen is there's a chain reaction that rolls after that. One thing goes down like when in 2008 when AIG became bankrupt. Well, they started seeing that the whole market was about to collapse, which meant that our whole economic system as we know it was about to collapse. And if that was going to happen, then the reserve currency of the dollar around the world collapses. And we have a global economic collapse at that point, which means the entire world has to reset. Well, you know what? The reset's going to happen whether we like it or not. I'd rather do it on our own terms when we actually have some options to deal with than to let it happen in the most worst way ever, which is propping it up to the most unreal heights and then letting it drop down to bottom and hoping that the market can then at that point fix it, even though the market's under complete uh, regulation and discernment by the bankers. Like there's leveraging going on that is completely under their control, which allows for the free market to not really be free, if you will. The whole idea of a free market is to allow voluntarism. It's allow contract to contract, me to you, business to business, to voluntarily agree upon two great ideals that can work for both parties. Now, when the government comes in and makes a mandate, which is a forceful action, or the government comes in and allows certain regulations to be in place that keeps certain businesses from going about the way they might normally run their company, then we have a problem because at that point that's not a free market. There's nothing free about force and mandating certain regulations. So I think we need to we need to go about understanding what kind of government we need to reinstate. Like, what should the role of government be? Should we have the biggest government that has so many departments that are supposed to be for the people that actually help the people, which has been the goal all along with such good intentions, but now we're at the point where none of those departments are actually helping anybody. In fact, all these departments are doing are raising the costs of all those different things that those departments are responsible for. So the cost continues to go up as we continue to print money and devalue the dollar, as everything continues to get more expensive for the consumer. So there's nothing free about this. It's all locked down, it's all under restraint, and it's all under some kind of loose control of how the banks are leveraging it all. I mean, this is the way that things are running, and unfortunately we're leveraging it so high that it's becoming such a gamble that we're right on the brink of that economic collapse that we almost had in 2008, that our government had to go in and then bail out the whole system. So I know there's a lot to chew on with this video, but these are serious concerns that every American needs to start thinking about. And if we don't start thinking about these things, if we don't start taking these things into our own hands and trying to become the voices of change that we want to see, then we will, and I mean we will, become completely run over by tyranny. And then we're back in the dark ages of having no control over our own lives, and from cradle to grave, the government takes care of us. And when I mean take care, I mean they tell us every little part of our life and the way that we need to run it, and the way that we need to live it, and the way that we need to spend it. and the way that we need to become involved in our society in helping to the overall cause of government. That's slavery. We're about to become the most enslaved society and the most enslaved world that the history of the earth has ever known. So please take what I'm saying and heed, and if anything, do your own research on these things. I obviously don't expect you to take my word for these as much as the ideas that I'm explaining and want you to discover for yourself. The only way that you can yourself makes any change is to make it personal and to understand with your own heart and mind the way that you might want to go about making these changes.